respect it, we network across the globe, cause it's a global market in case you didn't know. And since we all about information flow, let me be the first one to welcome you to Tech Zone with Paul Amadeus Lane. Let's talk tech, cause technology changing the game. It's all good in the hood, it's everywhere. Now let's get to the show, cause we live on air, yeah.
Welcome back. This is our third and final segment of the show, and it's been awesome talking with Steve Koenig from the Consumer Technology Association, the Director of Market Research over there, and sharing some good insight. I held him over for one last segment, our third segment, because all his information is great. And Steve, thank you so much for staying with me. And Steve, when we talked about in 2016, there was a quote that you were quoted in, and you got to love quotes. I love quotes too when people quote me, because I'm like, did I really say that? And this is what you said in 2016. You said, VR is the latest platform of immersive entertainment with massive experimentation and content development last year, end quote. Then you followed it up by, quote, a definitive trend at CES 2016. This week, the VR ecosystem will continue to advance and expand in 2016, end quote. All I have to say, Steve, you channeled your inner Jedi there, and you foresaw the future. And what are we seeing with VR now?
Wow. Well, I guess the better question is, what are we not seeing? I tell you, the technology is finally out in full force in retail. You know, this year has been that year of introduction, and several really interesting things have happened with Pokemon Go. That pretty much put augmented reality on everybody's desktop, and that really allowed awareness of that technology to take a quantum leap. Meanwhile, Sony was readying their virtual reality headsets along with Microsoft and obviously HTC Vive and Oculus. So now that these are all out in the marketplace and consumers are trying them out, and this holiday is, I think, going to be one of those major tipping points for adoption, certainly as we see these products under the tree, but then also for a lot of interest that people are going to be getting these and then sharing that experience with friends. So it's going to set up 2017 to one of those years where we're going to see a lot of growth. And what's really interesting here is that the technology is already starting to go beyond the usual suspects of entertainment content. And we're starting to see applications in a marketing context. Clearly, the goal of marketing is to persuade, and VR, when you can put someone inside an experience, that's a pretty persuasive way to sell or to market a product or service. So that's one way. But then I think next year you're just going to see that double down into other business applications, and we're off to the races, if you like. Education, tourism, it just real estate. I mean, there's so many ostensible plays for virtual reality, augmented reality, like in retail shopping, use cases, potentially virtual signage in augmented reality. So it's 2016 has really set the stage for what we're going to see a lot more development of, not only the products themselves, but also the use cases in 2017.
And Steve, are we seeing maturage? I don't know if that's a word, but I made it up. When it comes to different consumer technology devices out there, like the PCs, have we seen now just the maturing of that and no more growth in that? What are we seeing now? Because, a lot of PC manufacturers are really trying to push the PCs and the laptop now. Some of them have the 2-in-1s, but are we seeing a maturing in those markets with no growth? Or do we see maybe future growth coming up because they're pushing that and marketing that? And now some of them are VR ready. So what do we see with that?
Right. So there is some activity going on that behind the scenes, and with forthcoming operating systems and platforms, really right down the whole screen spectrum from smartphones through to tablets and dedicated PCs. This year really for some of the more advanced systems like Oculus or HTC Vive, you really had to have a pretty high-end gaming rig that would cost several $100s. And costs have come down there too, of course, but those requirements are falling, and there are more technologies wrapping around this that are going to help fuel further growth of the technology. So computers is one category that is pretty consistent, simply because PCs wear out for a range of reasons. They're mobile devices in a lot of cases. When we think about laptops and so forth, and maybe they get damaged, they need to be replaced. But also just the technology itself, smaller, thinner, lighter, and this is something that really attracts a lot of in demand as people look to improve their computing experience. One area that we've seen shipments start to tail off a little bit is tablets. We're pretty heavily penetrated there already in just about 5 or 6 short years. From the April 2010 introduction of the iPad through to now, we're nearing tablets in about 2/3 of U.S. households. So pretty much everybody that's wanted a tablet has one or 4 of them by now. And so that's one area where shipments are starting to decline. But PCs generally, certainly where laptops are concerned, you mentioned hybrids, that's a pretty stable market with some small declines, but generally pretty stable.
Awesome. Thanks for definitely sharing that with us. And Steve, earlier this year, you and your team did some research, marketing research on Canada, and I do have some followers and some listeners and some viewers in Canada, so I want to show them some love. And you guys found out some really intriguing information about Canada. And when you guys do a research study like that on a whole country, is that easy to do, or does it take time to come up with your research and your analysis?
Well, sure. So in market research, the survey, the study you were mentioning was a survey that we did of over 1,000 Canadian households across Canada, from Quebec to the Yukon Territory. And what we were trying to learn essentially is just what is the state of ownership and use of consumer electronics products and generally consumer technology. This was easier in this case because we really paralleled a body of work that we've undertaken in the U.S. market for years and years. So we were able to leverage that, and thinking that the general assumption is that Canadians and consumer behavior there in terms of ownership and use of technology is pretty congruent with U.S. There are some nuances there, but and one of those nuances that we found was that smartphone ownership was less than the U.S. in terms of overall penetration of Canadian households versus U.S. households, and that's one thing that was interesting. And in all research, the data doesn't tell you everything. But the reason that we were doing this study is because CTA has now undertaken policy advocacy in Ottawa for Canada and our innovators and member companies that are competing in the Canadian market. So we wanted to have some of our own research to speak from, to show what is happening in Canadian households. And I would expect us to do a lot more next year in aid of that endeavor of policy advocacy and making sure that Canadians have the right and proper access to our industry's latest innovations, as they should. And I think that any Canadians listening would endorse that approach.
Absolutely. And Steve, I foresee a Unveil Canada coming soon. So hopefully that's cool, because I'll definitely make that trip up there to definitely see it. And Steve, for ones who would like to attend CES 2017, what is the best way to attend? Because we know it's for a particular audience, just not for everybody to go. But what can they do? What's the easiest way to sign up and attend?
Yeah, well, I would say that for attending CES, it is a business-only trade event. So you need to be part of the consumer technology industry. But, so what does that mean? Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that you work for a Samsung or an LG or a Sony. There are a lot of tertiary markets that play into the supply chain or marketing. So we have a lot of folks in the financial community that attend. But if you're interested in attending, you can get a lot of information at our website, which is www.ces.tech. So that's a great place to start. Or you can go to our website, cta.tech, and link through that way. But that would give you all the information that you'd need to get registered, and we can therefore welcome you in a few short weeks in Las Vegas.
Awesome, man. And Steve and I, we have a lot of things in common. We love technology, we love our wives, and we also love the Amazon series, The Man in the High Castle. And Steve, we know next week it's premiering again. I am looking so forward to it. Are you?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, I follow Lee Shorten, who plays Sergeant Yoshida on Twitter, and I look to his feed on a regular basis just for behind the scenes insights, and it's always good stuff from Lee. But yeah, I cannot wait, and I've kind of tried not to spoil it for myself, if you like, but I literally can't wait, just as you can't. It's going to be a great series, and see what happens with the Übergruppenführer.
Yes, yes. And you know, I had an opportunity to talk with him at Comic-Con this past year, and Lee was so graceful because I was in the press line. He stopped what he was doing, came over to meet me, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. I don't know if it was my wife or the chair, but whatever it was, you know, I appreciate it. But, and you know, speaking the way technology is today, especially with Amazon, Netflix, and Steve turned me on to another series too on Netflix. We starting to see technology with the Netflix catch up with the Amazon Prime. You can watch everything in one day like I do, or you can spread it out over a couple of days. And I think that is awesome when it comes to technology, Steve.
Yeah, you can binge watch to your heart's desire. Usually try to spread it out a little bit, but yeah, no, that's so true. And it really, Netflix and Amazon both are really shaking up that whole content creation pipeline. It's not just the movie studios and the big studios in Hollywood anymore. There's a lot of fantastic original content coming from these new media creators like Netflix, like Amazon, and I'm sure there will be others coming in the future. But just looking at shows like Man in the High Castle, or the show that I turned you on to, Stranger Things.
Yes.
You don't need much convincing beyond that to know that there's some super high quality content coming here, and the subscriber numbers of those services speak for themselves. And consumers vote with their dollars routinely, and so those subscriber numbers continue to grow worldwide. And I mean, let's face it, that's one of the reasons that these companies are able to produce a lot of this content, and they've got more in the pipeline. So that means you and I have more binge watching to look forward to.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward, Steve. Few weeks, I'll see you at Consumer Technology Association, the CES 2017. Looking forward to your talk about the market trends to watch. Looking forward to that. I know you got some great things in store.
Yeah. So we'll see you there, and always look forward to our annual powwow show, and we'll see you out in Vegas. So travel safe, my friend.
And you too, and hopefully we'll get Steve on live with us like we did last year. You take care of yourself, my friend.
Thank you. You too. Been great being with you.
I am so geeked right now. My friend Steve Koenig from the Consumer Technology Association, one of the brightest minds you will ever hear, talk to. Looking forward to catching up with him on our annual chat at the Consumer Technology Association. CES 2017 show coming up in just a few short weeks. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did. And don't forget, the promo code for Everland is TechZone. You can follow me on social media. That'll be all posted. Get that free hour of tutoring for your kids out there, K through 12. All right, we'll be back next week on the Tech Zone. Until next time, hashtag Sean, where's my crust? See you next time on the Tech Zone. Remember, love those who are unable to love themselves. And let me see if I don't mess this up this time. Turn someone's frown upside down to a smile. Sean, I did it. Take care, folks. See you next time on the Tech Zone.